To whom it may concern. My name is Anne-Marie Barker, the third of 4 cooks working in the Ainsworth estate. Daughter of Joseph and Trinity Barker, but due to their untimely deaths, raised by a Mr. Carlisle Fontana, former head cook of this establishment. It is my present intention to report a crime, or series of crimes, though exactly which is for you to determine. Though I hope this letter is a simple precaution, to be kept as an unpleasant memory once I visit and speak to you in person, I'm nonetheless compelled to be as thorough as possible in the unlikely case that I should be unable to deliver my testimony through the proper channels. As I'm sure you are aware, the Ainsworth household lost its head about 3 months ago, in early January. Mr. Elijah Ainsworth suffered complications of the intestines and died in his sleep. Recent events caused me to suspect foul play, though I admit I have no evidence for any such accusations. With the senior Ainsworth's death came an overture to a previously peaceful abode. His wife had left him long ago, and he only occasionally received visitors in the form of his only son, his daughter-in-law, and 3 grandsons. For this reason, though his wealth allowed him means to staff whomever he needed, we were a small group. A maid, my mentor Mr. Fontana as cook, and the young Mr. Toby Dreer, whom we affectionately referred to as the Gopher, for he was in charge of retrieving or fulfilling any whim of the master of the house. I myself worked out of Mr. Fontana's salary for as long as I can recall, and he taught me everything he knew. Elijah Ainsworth's son, Dylan, inherited the estate, and us with it. He brought his wife and 3 sons with him, and though we mourned the loss of our good-hearted employer, we saw no reason to be wary of the new leadership, having served him a dozen times in the past when he visited. Dylan Ainsworth, however, brought his own batch of cooks and maids and even a driver. He appointed a new position, titled Head of Staff, and left all decisions up to Gale, who wasted no time dismissing us all on the spot. My mentor was able to secure employment at a restaurant the next town over, and I begged him to take me with him. I had never known anything outside the staff rooms in the Ainsworth estate, nor out from under the guidance of Carlisle Fontana. To say I was afraid at the time seems silly, droll even, but with no other experiences to compare, that's exactly what I was. Afraid. The good Carlisle spoke to Gale, head of staff, and persuaded her to allow both Toby Dreer and myself to stay on, in whichever capacity suited the household's needs. Thus, I became the third of 4 cooks, on a salary of my own, feeling much like a child who was first asked to run an errand on their own, surrounded by strangers but determined to succeed.
This is the door to the back patio, where suppliers will drop off food on Tuesdays.
I know.
Trash comes on Wednesdays.
I know.
Keep an eye out for the paper in the mornings. God knows where the paper boy leaves it, and if it's raining...
That's Dawson. He slides it under the door to keep it dry.
What?
The paper. Even if it rains, Dawson makes sure it doesn't get wet.
Dawson?
The paper boy?
You know the paper boy.
Since he was born, yes. I've worked here my whole life.
Gale. Just call me Gale.
Right. I know all this already. If anything, I could offer guidance. If anyone needs help getting situated...
Not necessary. Just keep your chin up, eyes low, and everything will work out fine. You can keep your room and your bearings, but otherwise this is a new position, understood?
Yes.
Now go to the kitchen. Rob was
Is that my name you call so sweetly?
Speak of the devil. Rob, take the newbie off my hands, would ya?
Aye. So, you're a veteran newbie, When I heard a cook was staying on to share their vast experience, I assume you'd be taller. How old are you?
19.
Great age. So talk to me about cooking. Who are you in the kitchen? Any specialties I ought to know of?
The late Mr. Ainsworth enjoyed my cinnamon cookies quite a bit, and Mr. Fontana praised my sponges and pastries.
Ah, so mostly sweets then. Should mean good oven work. You know how to operate a standing mixer?
I don't need one, just a whisk.
That wasn't the question.
Yes. I didn't let myself feel discouraged at the lack of warmth my colleagues provided. It was to be expected, and I had no doubt would remedy itself with time. Though I had less freedom than under Carlyle, Rob proved to be a fair supervisor, and often had me lead dessert, unless there was a special occasion wherein he felt the need to shine. Pleasantly, I discovered my pay to be a considerable increase from what I was used to. Though I admit I had no idea what to use the money on, I had all that I essentially needed. I thought speaking to young Toby Dreer would lift my spirits, so I found him at his usual spot, stretched on the damp stone of the back patio, staring into the sky as if the clouds spoke to him. His breath came out in misty clouds. If I didn't know any better, I'd say it looked like he was smoking.
You're hardly earning your keep by sleeping in the middle of the day. Oh, don't you dare grin at me like that. I'm not here to see you. Only cooling my cheeks from spending all day in the kitchen. I'm sure it must be nice.
Anne-Marie! The muffins will burn!
Oh, make yourself useful, Toby, or what will I tell Carlyle when they lay you off again? I'm coming, Rob.
Next time you dawdle like that, I'll stick you on prep work exclusively for a week.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Plate those and help Selena with the appetizers. Brock, help me with the main.
The roll should be done in a minute, and the split pea soup is just on a simmer. Thanks for the extra set of hands.
Selena, what is that?
What?
What Rob is working on.
Oh, the main. I think he's making a bacon wrap filet mignon. It's a technique he picked up in France when he... Oh, I should check on the asparagus.
It was a foreign technique, of course. No wonder it looked so... disgusting. Cultural clash, nothing more. Rob sliced into the fillet with a big knife, one long enough to go straight through a man's head and still have length enough to peek out the back of his neck. While red juices pooled under the portion, the size of a fist, roughly, he rubbed spices on it. Salt, pepper, paprika, cumin, red pepper flakes, and, if my watering eyes were to be trusted, a dash of cayenne pepper. As I tried to ignore the squelching of Rob's almost sensual massage, I could only hope that Dylan Ainsworth and his family found it more appealing than I, lest the reputation of the kitchen turned sour. The tasks at hand provided a welcome distraction. Pulling the buttery rolls and plating the soups. Rob always told me not to, but I added some crackers for the youngest boy, little Charlie. I couldn't help but spoil him. The child was well behaved, but even if he kicked me in the shins, it would be impossible to feel anything but affection for the cute little face. I remember the moment clearly. How I was sneaking crackers onto the edge of the plate, attempting to find a place they wouldn't be spotted until they reached the table upstairs, when the aroma hit me. Forgive me, but it was spectacular. As the ghastly bright red darkened to brown, sizzling in the basting butter, it smelled as if a single bite of the meal would keep you full for days and lull you into the most delightful afternoon slumber. Not only had I underestimated my superior, but the French themselves, acting like a child who scowls at an unfamiliar vegetable on their plate. At that moment, I felt shame. I wrote to Carlyle later that night, watched in envy as Rob treated Toby Dreer to the leftovers, the two suddenly thick as thieves. I asked Carlyle if he'd ever tried a recipe like this, something so bold, substantial. I admitted to missing the opportunity to try it myself, but swore to report back on flavor as soon as the opportunity arose. Surely the head of the house would have enjoyed the plate greatly, which meant it would be made again soon. I asked Mr. Fontana of his work, if he'd learned anything new, if their cooks were any good, even if his pay was as good as mine. I admit my enthusiasm overshadowed my decorum, but such a thing is bound to happen when one spends time apart from someone with whom one spoke daily for nearly 2 decades. It would be a week at least before I got a letter back, more if he actually attempted to answer all of my prying inquiries. But I was determined to show how well I stood on my own 2 feet. Toby Dreer had no such ambitions.
Tell me his name again.
Toby Dreer?
How long have you known him?
About 3 years. He joined us that hot summer when the wildfires hit, having no place to stay. The late Mr. Ainsworth used him as a third hand. He'd get the paper, notify us of any issues, even act as company. No one inspired quite so much affection as Toby. I'm sure he'll be of use if you give him a direction.
Can I trust him to get something from town? You won't get lost.
He knows the town better than anyone.
All right. And have him start to bring the morning news up to the lounge. If he can handle that, the maids may need help here and there.
I'm sure he'll be happy to help.
Well, it's certainly better than having him lie around all day.
I was thrilled, only lamenting that it was too late to include this advancement in my letter to Carlisle. I spoke to Toby immediately, and he seemed happier than ever. To be useful. Why is such a thing so intoxicating? When I saw Brock prepping a familiar gurgling mess, I quickly approached Rob. Are you making the filet mignon again?
No, Bacon. So, I'll be making another classic, steak frite. Funny of you to take an interest in the savory.
It smelled amazing.
Thank you. If you wanted a bite, you should have asked. Tell you what, I'll keep a little portion of today's aside for you, okay? You're so skinny, I should have known you'd never been fed a good, honest meal before.
I've been fed just fine. Just never fancy food like that. But thank you, sir.
Don't mention it. Now get that cake in the oven now, or it won't have cooled by the time dessert rolls around.
Yes, sir.
You earned it. You haven't missed a step since we started working together. Go ahead.
What I had before me was a paradox. Though beautifully plated, the food was shriveled and brown in long strips like a cluster of roasted centipedes. The frites were more inviting, and I started there. Salty and soft, I imagined they must have been exquisite when hot. Bravely, I tried the steak. Granted, a pleasant flavor hit me at first. Some of the saltiness, some of the butter and garlic and parsley. It was as rich as I'd predicted and more moist than it appeared. But it was chewy. My molars went to work, grinding it down to a size I could swallow. Eventually, it seemed as if all I could do was soften it, suck out the flavor in the process, then choke it down. I cut a second piece, making sure it was smaller this time, and noticed again the red juices that pooled when I did. The inside was not shriveled brown, but bright, angry red as it had been when raw. I didn't want to continue, but Rob was watching, and I couldn't do anything but flatter the man, not if I wanted to keep my privileges and goodwill. The second bite was just like the first. By the third, the taste had changed. I could no longer be distracted by the butter, getting the full brunt of the leathery center and crispy black crust. I tried my best to remain neutral, to convince myself to finish the meal. But I put down my fork.
Problem?
Just thirsty. I might...
You don't like my food?
Oh, no. I've just never had anything like it.
Right. I'll just give this to someone who appreciates it.
No, really, sir, it was fine. I just...
Fine?
Fine was the wrong word to use. Sure enough, I was put on prep duty for a week. I couldn't blame him, not really. He'd set aside a portion of something he was proud of, and I hadn't been able to provide him with the praise he expected. Clearly, my palate wasn't sophisticated enough to enjoy elegant French delicacies. So I resolved to think nothing more of it. Dearest Toby, always there for me, provided ample distraction.
Where did he run off to?
We'll find him, sir. He can't have gone far.
Let him in this lounge again, and it'll be you seeking new employment.
I understand. I apologize. Ms. Barker!
I had never heard that tone of voice from Gale before, but it didn't take a genius to know what it meant.
You have exactly 5 minutes to find your little friend and bring him to me, or I will personally ensure he never steps foot on these grounds again. Clear?
Clear. I found him where I knew I would find him. It's where he always went when he knew he was in trouble. You'd think he'd pick a new spot by now. The nook behind the stairs was deceptively large. 2 whole people could squeeze in, fully hidden from view. That said, I sat on the floor outside the cranny to give him space. Toby. Though he'd covered his head, he lifted his gaze to look at me. He didn't have to say a word. There was still coffee dripping off his chin. Toby, all you had to do was deliver the paper. How did you even get close to the coffee? At the very least, we'll have to pay for Mr. Ainsworth's coat. You're lucky I've been saving. You got Gale into trouble too, so you'll have to apologize. The only answer I got was Toby sticking his face into my shoulder. I hugged him back. I'm not a monster. Now I'm covered in coffee too. Come on. Gale wants to see you.
There he is. Excuse me. Toby, stay behind me. Are you okay? What was that? Maybe now he'll refrain from further mistakes.
Hit him again and you—
And what, Ms. Barker? I suggest you choose your next words very carefully.
Come on. Let's get some air.
And where the hell is the prep for dinner?
What ancient deity did I antagonize today? Coming!
There should be 20 fine strips of meat. The butter should be melted. Have you even mashed the garlic?
There was an issue upstairs. I'm on it.
Brock, help Barker now.
You can do that. You've done it before.
What self-respecting cook is afraid of getting their hands dirty?
Rob's attention fell on me. I was already in poor standing with Gale, so I had no choice. Please understand. I took the chunk of meat and the cleaver. I cut through it. It was like it was bleeding.
Easy on the bone.
Then I noticed something else. Selena was preparing something lighter for little Charlie, a stew or something. Her cutting board was stained. She seared some strips of red, each about the length of a finger. Then, when she thought no one was looking, popped one off the pan right into her mouth. I could hear her chewing as I continued to slice, the knife traveling forward, then down, then back. The texture under my hands was smooth and rubbery. Most surprisingly, it was ice cold. Selena chopped up the seared meat and dumped it into the pot. Rob took the cutting board from under me, and that's when I realized I had finished. I washed my hands. Twice. Brock made fun of me incessantly, but I scrubbed into my nail beds and up my wrists. Selena's mouth twisted into a frown.
Ooh, I'm not feeling well. Can you take this up for me?
I took the bowl of stew up the stairs, to the table, to the high chair where little Charlie sat. His mother reached to receive the meal, but I didn't hand it over right away. Something was wrong. Did no one see that something was wrong?
Are you all right?
I gave her the bowl of stew. I watched her feed it to little Charlie. The leftovers, those were our dinner. I said I wasn't hungry.
You already look like the wind could blow you over. If you faint in my kitchen because you haven't been eating, then I'm responsible. Eat. Never skip a meal because you had a rough day. It'll be better tomorrow.
This was the kindest thing Rob had said to me. So I sat and I ate. Selena's stock was always delicious, so I focused on that.
The phone for you.
The phone?
Take it, quick. There's a commotion upstairs I have to deal with.
Did you try it?
Mr. Fontana, is that you? I can hardly hear.
Answer me. Did you eat that filet mignon?
No, I never got the chance. Toby seemed to like it, though.
Toby? Toby Dreher ate it?
Yes? What's going on? Are you all right?
No matter what, never eat anything like that. To be safe, don't eat food Rob prepares in the first place. If I've known he was going to be your new boss, I never would have.
It's okay. I'm okay. I learned my lesson. The next meal he made wasn't nearly as good as it smelled. I shouldn't say that. He could hear me. For some reason, that's an unpopular opinion here. I think something must be wrong with me. Mr. Fontana? Carlyle, can you hear me?
You said you hadn't eaten any.
Of the filet mignon. He made steak frite, and I tried some of that. The rest of the staff is obsessed with the stuff. I don't get it.
I need to go.
What? Already?
I should have warned you earlier. I'm sorry.
Warned me of what? Carlyle?
It does no good now. You'll get sick if I...
What is it? For goodness sake, you can't just...
Grab your forearm. Squeeze. Dodge the bone.
Okay. I did as he asked, kneading the muscle against my palm and thumb.
Feel familiar?
What? I don't understand. What's wrong with Rob's food? We fed it to the family, to the child, to Toby.
Don't come see me.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, Anne. If I stop you, your parents were the same. They warned me you would be like them, but I had hope to spare you.
My parents? Carlyle? Mr. Fontana? I need to talk to Toby. Toby! Toby?
Breathe. The doctor will be here soon.
I want this dealt with.
It's already done, sir. Rob took care of it personally.
What happened?
Go downstairs, Miss Barker.
Charlie? Little Charlie Ainsworth was doing his absolute best not to cry, as his mother pressed a bandage against his leg.
I just wanted to play.
I said downstairs.
Gail just about dragged me away. Her grip on my arm would leave a bruise, and I doubt she would have stopped even if I had tripped, as she had to pull me down each step face first. She paused only when we reached the bottom of the stairs.
We'll talk once dinner is over and the doctor has treated Charlie. Until then, you work and you don't say a word.
If Mr. Fontana's assessment of Rob's food was as terrible as he made it out to be, and I was reluctant to take part in its preparation. But we'd all eaten it, and only Selina had been ill, which she insisted was from late evening walks without a cardigan. I needed a night's rest to wrap my head around all Carlyle had alluded to. He never spoke to me about my parents, never explained their death. He always said to live in the present and ensure the future, to encourage others to do the same. It would do me no good to lose my job over a phone call, and Toby would wait for me in the patio however long I needed. Gail would explain the upstairs commotion, though it pains me to say that young Charlie was the least of my worries. My mind was on myself when I stepped into the kitchen. Selina spotted me and ran to block my view. Her hands pressed against my shoulder and pushed me back. Brock was working on a particularly monstrous project, sawing at it, his apron splattered, not with red juices, but dark, thick blood. He wore gloves up to his elbows.
There's some good pieces off this leg. Selina, you're not squeamish, right? Make sure Rob doesn't throw out the head. The cheeks could have something good. And... oh.
Long story short, I write this hidden in Toby Dreer's nook. I think they think I left the ground, so I should be able to sneak out soon. They murdered my only friend. I won't claim absolute innocence, what with this happening right under my nose. Nor will I tell you Toby Dreer was a saint. Apparently, he bit a chunk right out of Charlie's leg. But who gave him the taste for flesh? It's not only fear that compels me to write this failsafe, but practicality. I feel weak from head to toe. I'm unsure if I'll even make the walk into town. I doubt I should ever recover, nor do I have a mind to. Please, make your way to the Ainsworth estate. Stop Rob and Kale and Dylan and all those complicit in these awful... If you find what's left of young Toby Dreer, give him a proper burial. I haven't had the stomach to search myself. And if I have any right to a selfish request, don't tell me what you find the family eating when you arrest them.